Few things are as foundationally important to your sales success as your value proposition statement. In just one sentence, it captures who your buyers are, what problems they are facing, how your product solves that problem, and so on, and much, much more as well. And when properly constructed, it should drive nearly every action that you take to close deals. But when your value proposition is off, well, it can spell huge problems for attracting the right buyers and closing new business. So how the heck do you create a killer value proposition statement in the first place? Let's tackle that in this video. Hi, my name is Will and I make selling simple. And in this video, we're going to talk about the value propositions. And as author and president of the revenue growth company, Kent Billingsley, put it on a recent Salesman podcast episode.
If you're in B2B, you've got to talk in value propositions. That is the language of business.
And to craft your value proposition, you need to follow 5 steps. Identify your value, identify your ideal buyer, find the fit between them, create your value proposition, and then verify it as well. Now, before we get into the value proposition design framework, I want to point out that we're going to be doing a high level, a brief overview in this video. If you want to get into any of these steps in more detail, I suggest heading over to salesman.com and getting signed up to salesman.com Academy. Value proposition design is one of the key workshops that we teach in our training program, and it's the foundation of almost everything that you're going to do in your B2B sales role. All right, so with that said, let's dive into it. So step 1 of designing your value proposition is to identify the value that you offer. In this framework, we call this filling out the value diagram. And it's got 3 main sections. You've got your products, perk producers, and then strain reducers. Your job is to fill out each of these 3 sections. And you can start by listing out all the products and services that you offer, and try and be thorough here, because the next steps require you to fill out the perk producers and strain reducers of each of your products or services. So what benefits do your products add to your buyers' lives? Do they help them outperform a competitor? Do they lead to a positive social consequence, like boosting their reputation? Do they create cost savings? Write down these perk producers for each one of your products. And then how do each one of your products eliminate any hardships that your buyers might go through? Do they fix frustrating problems? Do they eliminate risk? Do they limit or get rid of common mistakes that your prospects might be making? List them out in the strain reducers section. And once you've done that, it's time to shift over to finding your ideal buyer, which we call the buyer breakdown. And just like the previous section, this section consists of 3 steps as well. You've got to understand your buyer's jobs, their perks, and then their strains as well. And yep, same as last time, we're going to list out what we can uncover for each of these. First, what are the jobs that your buyers perform? They might have functional jobs like their common work duties. They might have social jobs like proving that they're actually competent of doing the role and perhaps they're worthy of the organization's respect. And there might be emotional jobs in there as well, like the buyer wants to feel some accomplishment. They want to feel like they're progressing their own career forward. Next, we're going to list out the perks. These are the benefits that your buyer wants to see from working with you. And there are 4 types of perks to consider here. We have required perks, expected perks, desired perks, and unexpected perks. Again, this is only an overview of this process. If you want to get into it in more detail, head over to salesman.com and get signed up. And last but not least, what are the strains that your buyers are facing? These are the pain points of your existing customer profile. What annoys them before, during, and after they're trying to get whatever job you help with done? What are the risks that keep them from working as effectively as what they could? Jot down all of this in as much detail as you possibly can, then we can move on to step 3, which is finding the fit. Because now that you've got both your value diagram and your buyer breakdown filled out, we're going to do some cross-referencing between the 2 of them. And all you got to do here is determine which jobs, strains, and perks in the buyer breakdown link up with the strain reducers and perk producers in the first section of the framework. So go through each job, strain, and perk one by one and place a check mark, or if you've done it on a piece of paper, you can scribble lines and diagrams and go back and forth to align them all up. And at the end, simply remove the ones that don't have a check mark or don't have a pain linked with a pain reducer, and that's it. That's the hardest bit of this entire process. The crazy thing is though, most salespeople, never even mind most salespeople, most organizations don't even do this job regularly. So by going through that, you're gonna have a lot more to talk about with your buyers. You can be a lot more targeted in all of your messaging, and already you're well ahead of the competition. All that's left in this framework that we're talking about in this video though is to craft a very specific, bespoke, and effective value proposition statement based upon the elements that are highest on that list of importance. So how the heck do you create your value proposition statement? Well, it's pretty simple. You're going to plug in the information that you just written down into this template. Our products help the buyers who want to, in your buyer's jobs, by then improving the peaks that you documented and reducing the strains that you documented, unlike and then linked to a competitor's value proposition. So all of the jobs, perks, and strains that you matched up before, just simply fill them into that template. So for me over at salesman.com, it might look like this. Salesman.com Academy, which is the product, helps sales teams, who are the buyers, who want to close more sales, which is the buyer's job, by teaching proven selling frameworks, which is your perks, and then simplifying the sales process, which is strain. We also include unlimited video coaching, unlike other trainers on the market, which is where we tear apart our competitors' own value proposition. See how that works? Now, the trick here is to be flexible, because after you've plugged in all this information, you've done the exercise, you've done the work, well, there's one step left to do. You need to verify your value proposition. So to settle on a compelling value proposition, you've got to test whether anyone cares, if anyone gives a shit, if it resonates with your buyers. And to do that, it's pretty simple. Generate a hypothesis about your ideal buyer and what they value. Create the value proposition based on the hypothesis, like we just done in the previous step. And then we need to design an experiment to verify the effectiveness of our value proposition. We're going to run through this experiment, we're going to collect some results, and then, depending on how well it works, we're going to reevaluate and tweak the components of our value proposition based on actual results and data. If it's not crazy effective in the first instance, then we just repeat the cycle. Now that might sound more complicated than what it actually really is to do this. There are plenty of ways to test your value proposition. You can get your marketing team to do a short ad campaign and look at link tracking and link clicks. You can do split testing with your emails. You can do split testing with landing pages, again, with your marketing team buying it. You can do buyer interviews and ask your buyers, hey, which one of these value propositions would you be more likely to connect with a salesperson over and perhaps buy? You can even look at your buyers' behavioral data and analyze that as well. Did they click this campaign? When you were on a discovery call with a good buyer, did they say this or this? Use all of this, put it all together, and then test it. And in the end, you're going to come up with a value proposition that is the basis, the groundwork, the foundations of all the other sales activity that you're going to do moving forward. Your cold email outreach is based upon your value proposition. The beginning of your cold calls based upon your value proposition. It's super foundational, and when you get this nailed, you're going to double, triple, 10x the amount of income that you're going to earn with way less effort, because every time you communicate with a prospect, they're going to understand what you do, understand it's going to help them, and they're going to understand that they probably should be working with you to solve this problem. And remember, this is a process, not necessarily a one-time effort. The market shifts, your buyers shift, you shift, the product shift, everything shifts over time. So this needs to be redone every 12 months over and over until it becomes as effective as it possibly can. So remember, there's just 5 steps to build your value proposition. Identify your value, find your ideal buyers, find the fit between the two, create the value proposition statement, then verify it. And if all this sounds like a little bit of work, well, it is a little bit of work. But with the right value proposition on your side, you're going to be able to attract better buyers, close deals quicker, and knock your sales right out of the park. So if you enjoyed this video, why not click the video that's on the screen right now and continue making selling